Okay, a complex number you might have seen before is something of the form a plus bi. So this part's a real number and this part's a real number. And this part is the square root of -1. So it could be 3 plus 4i. It could be 3 minus 4/5 I. It could just be 2i. So I squared, by definition, then is -1. So I cubed, which is I times I squared, is then -I. I to the fourth is negative I times I is negative -1. And then it starts to cycle again. So I to the fifth is I to the sixth. Bizarre. Never even seen that before. I to the sixth is -1, and so forth. So if you have I to the, say, 528, well, let me make that 9. Then you say, okay, 529 divided by 4. And this one, that's what tells you what to do. So it's I. If that remainder had been 2, it would be -1. If the remainder had been 3, it would have been -I, and so forth. Just keep cycling through like that. The way you add and subtract these is really pretty straightforward. So it's sort of like this is an x, it's a kind. So if I do this, then I can treat it like x and just get like terms together. So at first you distribute that negative. And then put the 3 minus 5 together and the 5 plus 7 together. And that's it. That's all you have to do. If you have the square root of -16, say, you remember the rule that the square root of a, b, these are more or less splittable. So this is the square root of 16 times the square root of -1. So that's 4i. And if it was square root of, say, 57, -57, there's nothing you can do with this part, so you just leave that and you put the I. I think maybe in the text they put the I over there just to make it totally clear that that I is not under the root. So the only thing really to think about is multiplication and division. So multiplication, you just FOIL it. So we're just distributing. First we distribute the 3, then we distribute the -7i. So we have 3 times 2 is 6. Outside is 3i. Inside is -14i. Last is -7i squared. So that's 6 minus 11i from these two. -7 times -1 is +7. So that is done. To divide, we're going to normally multiply by the complex conjugate of the divisor. So let's say I have like that. A conjugate always just changes the sign in the middle. So you've probably seen before square root 5 minus square root x or something like that. You multiply by square root 5 plus square root x so that the middle two pieces collapse out and you're left with just 25 minus x. I'm sorry, 5 minus x. I've made too many videos today. It's starting to freak out. Okay, so the conjugate here is 4 plus I, so we just multiply by 4 plus I over 4 plus I. So then we distribute up here, so we get first outside, inside, last, divided by, and then if we fold down here, those two are going to collapse out again. So we have first, outside, inside, last. So these two cancel. So then we have 12 minus 25, because that, well, I'll just write that step in. So plus 23i plus 5 times negative 1. And down here, those are gone, so I get 16 minus 1. So 12 minus 5 plus 23i divided by 17. And now I can write it 7 divided by 17 plus 23 over 17i, and that's just an ordinary complex number. So whenever you divide, you just take the denominator, change the sign in the middle, and then multiply by that above itself. This, I think, is all that you need to know about complex numbers for this section.